They say memory is a fortress, a stone keep where we lock away the things that matter, but mine feels more like a ruin these days. The mortar is crumbling, the stones are slipping into the sea, and the wind howls through gaps that used to be solid walls. I can't tell you if I took my pills this morning, or if the tea on the table is cold because I forgot it or because I haven't poured it yet. But I can tell you, with a clarity that hurts my eyes, exactly how the light caught the dust motes dancing in the air of the shop on Sovietskaya Street. It was a Tuesday or perhaps a Thursday, the days before the war had a rhythm, a gentle, rocking cadence that didn't require names. I was a clerk, a keeper of small, orderly things. My world was defined by the ledger on the counter and the rows of shelves behind me. I arranged buttons by size and pearlescence, cascading from ivory to bone to mother of pearl. I folded linens until the creases were sharp enough to cut the air, stacking them in towers of white and cream. There is a profound safety in inventory. If you can count it, you can control it. If it has a place, the world makes sense. I remember the bell above the door. It didn't clang. It sang a high silver note that announced a new transaction. I remember him walking in. He was tall, wearing a coat that cost more than my father made in a year. He didn't look like a monster then. He looked like a customer. He needed gloves, leather lined with rabbit fur. I remember his hands. They were pale, manicured, the fingers long and slender, hovering over the merchandise like a pianist selecting a chord. He spoke Russian with a clipped, precise accent that I thought was merely aristocratic, not foreign. I smiled. I recommended the dark brown pair, the ones with the reinforced stitching. He smiled back. It was a polite, tight shifting of facial muscles that didn't quite reach his eyes. He bought them. He thanked me. The transaction was balanced. The ledger was correct. Then the memory fractures, shattering like a dropped mirror. The smell of lavender soap and starched cotton vanishes, replaced instantly by the suffocating reek of wet earth and mildew. I am not in the shop. I am not 24 years old, standing in the sun. I am curled into a ball in the crawl space beneath a bombed-out bakery in the suburbs of Minsk, and the year is 1944. The darkness here is heavy, a physical weight pressing against my eyelids. It is cold, a damp, seeping chill that ignores the wool of my coat and gnaws directly on the bone. My inventory has changed. I no longer count buttons. I count the thuds of heavy boots on the floorboards above my head. 1, 2, pause, a scrape of a chair leg. German boots sound different. I don't know why. Perhaps it is the hobnails, or perhaps it is the arrogance of the men wearing them, but they strike the wood with a hard, flat authority that Russian boots never had. Above me, they are walking on the ceiling of my coffin. I hold my breath, my lungs burning, applying the logic of the shop clerk to the business of survival. I tell myself, if I do not spend my breath, they cannot buy my life. My hand trembles not from the cold, but from the terror that lives in the pit of my stomach. It is a living thing, this fear. It is not a fear of death. Death would be simple. Death would be a closing of the ledger. No, the fear is much more specific. It is the image of the loose floorboard under my hip, the one hiding the code book and the list of safe houses. It is the thought of those long, manicured fingers, not buying gloves, but holding pliers. It is the thought of my silence breaking before my body does, of betraying the others, of the network collapsing, because the shop clerk couldn't handle the inventory of pain. I press my face into the dirt, smelling the rot of potatoes that have turned to black slime in the corner. The boots pace, back and forth. A heavy object drops, a rifle butt. A crate and the dust rains down on my hair. I squeeze my eyes shut and summon the rows of buttons. I force my mind to organize the chaos. Eventually, the heavy footsteps recede, fading into the dull roar of the street outside. I exhale a ragged, shuddering sound that seems too loud in the sudden quiet. I wait an hour, maybe two. Time in the dark is elastic. It stretches and snaps back without warning. Then a different sound, a scratching at the ventilation grate that opens to the alley. It's the rhythm of a rat, but specific. 3 scratches, a pause, 2 scratches. I crawl through the muck, my knees scraping on broken brick. I reach up and slide the grate aside just an inch. A hand, filthy and calloused, thrusts a loaf of black bread through the gap. It's stale, hard as a rock. I take it. The grate slides back. The hand is gone. I retreat to the corner where a single shaft of gray light bleeds through a crack in the foundation. I break the bread. It fights me tough and unyielding, but inside, buried in the dense sourdough, is a wax paper capsule. My hands, usually so steady when wrapping parcels of lace, are shaking so badly I nearly drop it. I unfurl the paper. The code is gibberish to anyone else. Rows of numbers that look like inventory counts. But to me, they are a narrative. I apply the cipher I memorized 3 months ago, the key shifting the numbers into letters, the letters into words. I stare at the paper until the numbers blur. Komarovsky Market. It is not a quiet cellar. It is not a hidden attic. It is the beating heart of the occupation, a hive of black marketeers, desperate civilians, and German patrols. It is the lion's den, and they want the shop clerk to walk right into the middle of it and start taking inventory. I swallow the wax paper. It tastes like wax and bitter ink. I check my pistol, a small Tokarev that feels alien in my hand, heavy and clumsy compared to a yardstick. I am not a soldier. I am a woman who knows how to organize shelves. But as I look at the damp walls of my cage, I realize that the logic still holds. The market is just a bigger shop. The soldiers are just customers with different needs. And I have always been very good at watching what people buy. I wrap my headscarf tight, obscuring my hair, and push the fear down into the dark place where I keep the memories of my brother. I climb the stairs. Crossing the threshold from the cellar to the street is like stepping from a grave into a furnace. The air in the cellar was dead. The air in the market is screaming. Even from 2 streets away, the noise hits me, a cacophony of haggling, shouting, the rumble of engines, and the crying of children. I hunch my shoulders, shrinking inside my coat, adopting the posture of the beaten, the hungry, the invisible. I am no longer Elena, the clerk. I'm a peasant woman with a sack of sprouting potatoes and a face carved from wood. The market square is a sea of gray and field gray. The mud here is churned into a thick paste by thousands of feet and tires. It smells of unwashed bodies, diesel fumes, frying onions, and horse manure. It is overwhelming. In the shop, everything had its place. Here, everything is in motion. A woman screams as a thief snatches a turnip. A German truck backfires, sounding like a gunshot, and half the crowd flinches while the other half doesn't even blink. I find a spot near the edge of the square, spread a burlap sack on the mud, and dump my potatoes. They are sad, shriveled things, but they are my ticket to stand here. I crouch, making myself small, and I turn on the machine in my head. My eyes are the lens. My memory is the film. I do not look at the people. I scan them. I catalog them. I file it away. Filed. A beggar shuffles toward me, a mound of rags with human eyes. He stops at my sack, fingering a potato. Too soft, he grumbles in Russian, his voice a dry rasp, like the heads of the council. It is the phrase. My heart hammers against my ribs, but my face remains stone. Soft potatoes make good soup for toothless wolves, I reply. The countersign. He doesn't look at me. He drops the potato, and a small, folded square of paper lands in the mud next to my knee, invisible to anyone not looking for it. He shuffles on. I wait 10 seconds. 20. I shift my weight, covering the paper with my skirt, and scoop it up with a handful of mud. The transfer is complete. A test passed, but the test is not over. A whistle blows, shrill and cutting. The crowd parts like water struck by a stone. A truck convoy is rumbling through the center of the square, pushing civilians into the gutters. I watch the trucks. Opel Blitz transports. Canvas covers drawn tight. They are heavy. The suspension is compressed low over the axles. They are not carrying empty crates, but it is the tires that catch my eye. I focus. The world narrows down to the rubber wheels churning through the slush. The treads are caked with mud, but not the black, oily slime of the city. It is a reddish clay, thick and clinging. I know that clay. I have seen it on the boots of farmers coming from the eastern ravine, near the old brickworks. That clay is only found in one sector, 5 miles outside the city limits. The logic clicks into place. The inventory balances. The Germans are moving munitions from the brickworks depot to the front. The artillery needs to know. The realization sends a jolt of adrenaline through me that makes my fingertips tingle. I have the location. I have the proof. Partisan filth, the shout tears through the market noise. Near the fountain, the 2 collaborators have grabbed a boy. He couldn't be more than 16. They drag him toward the wall of the administration building. He is kicking, screaming for his mother. The crowd goes silent, a terrifying, collective holding of breaths. A German officer steps out of a black car parked by the curb. He waves a hand, a dismissive, bored gesture. The shot is not loud. It is a flat crack. The boy drops. I do not scream. I do not look away. I force myself to watch, to record the face of the executioner, to add this debt to the ledger that must be paid. This is not a shop. There is no manager to complain to. There's only the cold arithmetic of war. My gaze drifts from the body, panning across the square, recording. Always recording. I sweep past the fountain, past the trucks, past the black car, and then I freeze. Standing by the open door of the black car is a man. He is wearing the black uniform of the SS, the silver death's head grinning on his cap. He is older now, his face leaner, harder, but I know the stance. I know the way his long, slender fingers rest on the door frame, tapping a silent rhythm. He is looking across the square. He is looking at the potato seller crouched in the mud. Our eyes meet. The distance is 50 yards, but it feels like inches. I see the flicker of confusion in his eyes, the furrowing of his brow as he accesses his own inventory of faces. He remembers the shop. He remembers the gloves. He remembers the girl who smiled and wrapped his parcel. A slow, cold smile spreads across his face, sharp as a razor. He straightens up, says something to the soldier beside him, and begins to walk toward me. He closes the distance. 50 yards becomes 30. 30 becomes 10. He moves with the arrogance of a man who owns not just the pavement, but the air we breathe. I lower my head, scrubbing a muddy potato with a filthy rag, curling my spine into the shape of a peasant, a nonentity, a creature of the dirt. But my heart is hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. It is a rhythm so loud I fear he can hear it over the market noise. My right hand slides deep into the burlap sack. It does not search for a tuber. It finds the handle, wood, wrapped in rough friction tape. The blade is 4 inches of filed steel, taken from a rasp in a mechanic's garage. It is cold. It is real. He stops at the edge of my stall. I see his boots first. Black leather polished to a mirror shine, untouched by the muck that swallows the rest of us. I do not look up. To look up is to invite the predator. I keep scrubbing the potato. The skin of my hands is stained with walnut juice to hide the softness of a clerk's life. But he knows the geometry of my face. A shadow falls over my hands. He leans down. I smell him. He smells of peppermint and gasoline. It is a nauseatingly clean scent in a world of rot. The potatoes are small this year, he says. His Russian is perfect, accented only by a slight sharpness in the vowels. I nod, keeping my chin tucked against my chest. Look at me. The command is quiet. It is not a shout. It is the voice of a customer asking for the price of butter, but it carries the weight of a firing squad. I slowly lift my head. I have to. To refuse is to be shot where I crouch. I meet his eyes. They are pale blue, the color of winter ice. There is no humanity in them, only a detached curiosity, like a scientist examining a beetle pinned to a board. I thought so, he whispers. A smile touches the corner of his mouth. It is a terrible, intimate thing. You are a long way from Minsk, Elena. Do you have any of that blue silk left? The kind my wife liked. The world stops. The noise of the market, the haggling, the crying children, the distant artillery, drops away into a muffled hum. He knows. He has the inventory of my past. He remembers the shop, the counter, The way I used to wrap parcels with twine. He remembers the girl who existed before the fire. If he speaks my name to the soldiers behind him, the network collapses. The location of the munitions depot dies with me. The encirclement fails. Thousands of Soviet soldiers will march into a trap because I hesitated. The clerk must die so the spy can live. He reaches out. His gloved hand moves toward my shoulder. He intends to steer me toward the car, toward the interrogation room, toward the cellar with the drain in the floor. Behind him, 10 paces away, the supply truck engine sputters. It is an old Opel, choked with bad fuel. The driver is grinding the gears, revving the engine in frustration. The exhaust pipe shakes violently. It is a beast clearing its throat. I know mechanics. I know that sound. It is about to backfire. No, the officer's fingers brush the rough wool of my coat. The truck engine detonates. A blast of noise rips through the square, sharp and sudden as a grenade. I do not flinch. I lunge. I explode upward from the crouch, driving my weight not away from him, but into him. I step inside his guard, inside the personal space that his rank usually protects. My left hand clamps over his mouth, stifling the surprise, gripping the leather of his jaw. My right hand, driving the knife from the sack, punches upward. I do not slash. Slashing is for cinema. I thrust under the ribs, angling up toward the heart. It is a wet, dull impact. The resistance of the wool uniform, then the sudden give of flesh. He gasps into my palm, a hot, wet exhalation. His eyes go wide, the blue ice shattering into shock. He tries to grab my wrists, but his strength is already fleeing, pouring out of him into the space between us. I hold him close. To an observer, it looks like a lover's embrace, or perhaps a woman catching a man who has stumbled. I twist the blade. He sags. The weight of him is immense, dead weight, heavy as a sack of grain. I guide him down, careful not to let him drop. I lower him into the mud behind the stack of crates, wedging him between the wall and the stall. He is still twitching, his boots scraping feebly against the cobblestones. I wipe the blade on his pristine tunic. I take his wallet. I take the papers from his breast pocket. It must look like a robbery. It must look like the desperation of the starving. I stand up. My hands are shaking so hard I have to clasp them together. The truck is moving now, rumbling away, the cloud of exhaust masking the scene. The soldiers by the car are lighting cigarettes, laughing at something the driver said. They did not see. They did not hear. I leave the potatoes. I leave the stall. I turn and walk into the crowd. I do not run. Running draws the eye. I walk with the heavy, tramping gait of a tired woman going home. I merge into the flow of bodies, just another gray shape in a gray city. But under my coat, my shirt is wet with his blood. It sticks to my skin, cooling rapidly. I reach the safe house an hour later. It is a cellar beneath a bombed-out bakery. I burn the wallet. I photograph the papers with the Minox camera before burning them too. I wash my hands in a bucket of freezing water. The water turns pink, then dark red. I scrub until my skin is raw, until the knuckles bleed. But I can still feel the phantom warmth of his breath on my palm. I look into the cracked mirror, leaning against the damp bricks. The face staring back is not Elena, the shop clerk. That girl died in the market. The eyes are older, hollowed out. Dark tunnels leading to nowhere. I have balanced the ledger. One life for the brother they took. One life for the information that will crush Army Group Center. The math is correct. The inventory is accurate. But inside, something has shattered. I am a machine that has been pushed past its tolerance. The gears are grinding. Flash forward. The cellar dissolves. The damp bricks become the sterile white walls of a modern apartment. The smell of cordite and unwashed wool is replaced by the scent of brewing tea and old paper. I am 84 years old. My hands are spotted with liver spots. The skin translucent like parchment. They tremble not from adrenaline, but from age. The interviewer sits across from me, his digital recorder blinking a steady red eye. He asks me about the victory. He asks me about the feeling of liberation when Minsk was retaken. He wants the story of flags waving and children cheering. He wants the fairy tale. I look at him, and for a second I see the blue eyes of the customer. I smell the peppermint. Vengeance is for stories, I tell him, my voice raspy, like dry leaves skittering on stone. We did not fight for vengeance. We fought for the silence that followed. The silence where a new Minsk could be built, where shops could open again, where a girl could sell silk without knowing how to kill a man with a sharpened file. I look out the window. The city is alive. There are cars, lights, noise, but I cannot walk into a shop anymore. I cannot stand at a counter. When a clerk smiles at me, I wonder what they are hiding. When I smell fresh fabric, I smell blood. The war ended for the world in 1945. It never ended for me. I am still in that market. I am still holding the knife. The shop is closed. The machine is broken forever. The harvest is ruined, and no amount of scrubbing will clean the floor. This memory is a shard of glass I carry. Help me pull it out. Subscribe to keep this history alive.